Good morning, masterminds. It's Monday, July 17th. Welcome to another day off vlog. Oh. But it's still a work vlog too. I've got to work on keeping my job. Buying myself more time. My driving instructor license is about to expire August 10th. In order to renew it, the DMV is requiring me to get another physical exam. So, I'll be getting one today at a local clinic. After the Blink concert, I developed acute bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that. I still have a lingering cough. I'm just happy sticking things into me is not required on this form. Jill, it's so hot!
1 hour later.
Yay! The same doctor cleared me. His office ladies always think when we come in for a DMV physical that it's for a CDL. So this time I decided to give my pee sample and the doctor said, yeah, no signs of diabetes, I'm in good health, so it's nice to get that information this time. I've had a lot of notable experiences since my last work vlog. Let's get to them. So, I forgot to add that on December 28th, 2022, Gilberto gave me a box of Belgian chocolates he was gifted by a student. January 3rd, during my commute, a middle-aged lady cut me off dangerously because she lane changed slowly into my lane. If I remember correctly, this was on the freeway. When I entered the office, it smelled like fish. My first student that day was the younger sister of a student I had back in December 2020, January 2021. She passed 2 of my 3 practice tests. She's a very good driver because she learned how to drive stick shift from her dad too. I met an English family, a mother and son. The mother definitely immigrated here, son was probably born here. They didn't know the son had to have a lesson with an instructor to have a legally validated permit, so they had been practicing for 3 months before the first lesson with me. She warned me he likely has bad habits, and he had several. I provided them the California Driver's Handbook and Driving Test Criteria booklet. I returned to the office and found several COVID-19 test kits on a table. January 6th, when Beth arrived at the office after hours, she mentioned in front of the group that she saw me the previous night and waved at me to no response. I was probably busy thinking. January 7th, I was informed that my little sister's dad had COVID-19. I planned to test myself after work. My first student passed my first planned practice test for her DMV of choice. Super rare. 0 critical, 3 regular points. She almost instantly failed due to the diamond yellow sign scenario that I used against them. My male boss told me to finish out my workday. I let both know. I'll inform them of my result. I ended up teaching in darkness and rain. My 4th student, a decent Indian girl, asked me if I'm Joel's son, because she thought we have the same last name. Joel is the guy that took my basket. And got back to the office and took one of the COVID-19 test kits home. January 8th, I had a frustrating lesson with a 27-year-old woman. I had to treat her 3rd lesson as a first lesson because of her poor mental and motor skills. To not make it a disaster, I explained why I was frustrated. Coworkers wasted her money, the dangers involved, and her discourtesy to other road users.
She understood and intended to endure me again because she saw value. My fourth student, Miriam, gave me a heart attack. She palm released the wheel too early and almost crashed us into a parked car. I yelled profanities and told her to not be too confident in talking to me while driving. January 10th, I received my 2022 W-2 form. January 11th was my second time with a 17-year-old Indian kid. I had to treat his second lesson like a first lesson. I was frustrated to the point of cursing and intense questioning when he made dangerous maneuvers. My male boss texted me that my 5 p.m. student canceled due to being afraid of the weather because the skies are gray. It was drizzling with night incoming. January 12th, when I arrived at work, my male boss informed me my 5 p.m. meant for the day was the one that actually canceled due to the weather. Meaning, the day prior, I didn't serve the 5 p.m. student I was parked nearby and waiting on. I was gifted key lime LaCroix by the mother of my first student. Effectively a 2-hour, 15-minute lesson with an overconfident Indian kid. Decided to just work on what he wanted to, so we spent about 80 minutes on parking in a lot. He always parked crooked and questioned my technique even after I demonstrated. Annoyed, I told him he knows I'm right and I know I'm right. He got frustrated. He demanded a practice test and failed it. 4 critical mistakes, 17 regular. January 13th, I got the car with a non-working gas card. I informed my male boss of needing a $34.81 reimbursement. After my 1 student shift, I received the reimbursement check from my female boss. January 14th, during my 3rd lesson, a guy slammed on his brake to stop on a yellow he could have crossed, causing me to road rage. Teaching long hours in the darkness and rain led me to seriously consider never again doing 4 appointments per day. January 15th, I finished my dark, rainy 4-lesson shift and noted on my time card to, for my mental health, block any 6 p.m. weekend slots I previously requested. January 16th, another horrible Indian driver. On the way back to the office, I saw a clothed guy on a bike somehow with his entire ass on display. January 17th, I informed my male boss by text to block off any 6 p.m. weekend slots I'd requested so far. He agreed. Later, he informed me that one of the caregivers I observed is a hazard on the road. Quotation marks, the hazard on the road. Direct quote. January 18th, I was informed by my bosses that we'll be using Chevron for gas starting January 19th. I was not excited since I'd have to constantly interact with an attendant. Had my first lesson with Maya, an 18-year-old Mexican Filipino girl who was very extra, very jolly, and very honest when speaking. We got to talking about psychotherapy because she was wondering if it's right for her, as she's the victim of sexual assault, has used psychedelics to help her heal, and wants to become a nurse and work in a psych ward. My second student that day was the older brother of a 19-year-old Vietnamese kid I had on December 7th. 21 years old and just as anxious and socially awkward. January 19th, an 18-year-old Filipina I taught on December 23rd informed me she passed her second attempt at the drive test. She occasionally texted me for advice leading up to the test. That day, I almost got T-boned again by an Asian lady speeding up and honking at my student and me from ahead when we were right-of-way left turning at a 4-way stop. I flipped her off. January 21st, my first of 2 lessons with a 37-year-old dyslexic woman. It was challenging to fix her steering and scanning for information. I was saddened when she told me she wanted to stick with me. That day ended up not being my last 4-appointment workday. January 15th was. Because the Indian kid I was frustrated with in his second lesson canceled his third lesson that day and rescheduled it to a few days later. Went to gas up at our particular Chevron. I encountered Roberto and his student there. He informed me we can't milk reward program points. I became friendly with Maribel, the Filipino station attendant. She speaks to me in Tagalog to help me learn. It's so sad that starting this week, we're no longer going to do business at that Chevron. No. My 6 p.m. student moved up to 5 p.m. After my shift, I ate at Round Table with Roberto. It was his first time there. January 22nd, I was assigned the Kia Forte I was in the car crash with. To my surprise. January 24th, my second and slightly frustrating lesson with a 19-year-old Vietnamese kid. The mom informed me the 21-year-old passed the drive test with almost a perfect score. I had a close call with CHP. I was passing at a high speed and lane changed to the right a few times to get to my junction. The CHP officer came speeding behind me, lane changing multiple times into the lane next to me, and then ended up taking a different exit. January 25th, the Indian kid canceled and rescheduled again. Fucking annoying. I was waiting in the driving school parking lot during my 3.5-hour break. I saw Gilberto enter the office, and I decided to scare him. I sneaked up to the office door. One of the office ladies was coming back to the office. She greeted me as she entered, so he knew someone was around the corner, but I jump scared him anyway. And he let out a better reaction. January 26th, I had a frustrating third time, our 9th lesson total at that point, with the German woman. She kept using different techniques and not asking clarifying questions of me to help me help her. She didn't like it when I murmured Jesus Christ with her awful parking attempts. I have in parentheses here, spoke out loud wrong actions to take. Yeah, she kept just saying things out loud to help her do it, but she just kept doing something else. On the freeway, I had to scream out fast multiple times so that she would pass the Aramark van truck merging onto the freeway, because we were going to collide with it if she didn't pick up speed. After I checked her license, we had a post-lesson chat to diffuse the tension. She was concerned about causing me stress, even suggesting we end the lesson early, only an hour in, and that I'm too young to be so stressed. I got a flu shot during my 3.5-hour break. I went home to kill time. I tried to scare Roberto by sneaking up and knocking on the driver window. After work, I researched the sexual assault cases of our driving school. We gossiped more about our seemingly homeless coworker, who Roberto suspected to be the thief of his sunglasses. Maybe he still does. January 27th, my mail boss asked me to chat for a few minutes before my shift. He confronted me about my fucking cunt note to Joel. He was concerned about how others reacted to my note. He also informed me that a lesson I gave 1 week ago or 1 week prior, was refunded because the white girl didn't like that I used the F word twice when we were losing control of the vehicle. He kept reiterating that I need to think about what I communicate to certain people. January 28th, I had a frustrating lesson with an Indian girl. Her mother miscommunicated her abilities. At that time, I was thinking I wouldn't be surprised if a complaint was filed. And then I had a masculine, obese female that day. Mustache hairs even. January 29th, I had a frustrating and at times scary second lesson with the dyslexic woman. I made her do Main Street driving, especially in a downtown setting and on expressways. She was so uncomfortable. We pulled over a few times to calm down and chat about what's happening and what needs to happen. I explained my frustration and fear. She clarified she focused more on passing the permit test rather than understanding the rules of the road, as well as it had been years since she had driver's ed. She agreed that she needs to work on her decision making before we fine-tune her skills in maneuvering a car. She assured me she wouldn't call to complain about me. I drove her home at her request. I uplifted her, recommended other trustworthy instructors, estimated that she can be test ready within 10 lessons. She agreed that there's no hard feelings between us. January 31st, I met Maya's big dog that she sees as her support animal. It was a psychotherapy session for her as we drove, because she trusted me enough to vent about her difficult life, all kinds of abuse. My second student was a 22-year-old black guy. Because I forgot to pack snacks, I got a ham and cheese croissant and matcha tea latte from Starbucks during my hour break. A coworker greeted me as I was leaving the shop. February 2nd, Maribel asked me if I have a girlfriend. Typical Filipino question. Do you have a girlfriend? I answered no and asked if she's trying to set me up with a family member. She wanted me to seriously consider connecting with her 26-year-old niece that has never had a boyfriend. And then Gilberto submitted a Glassdoor review of the job. A scathing review. February 3rd, I picked up my first of 2 students, a 32-year-old Asian woman, at a grocery store. She is licensed in Hong Kong and had some hours driving in Canada. We worked on lane changing, unprotected left turns and freeways. February 4th, Morgan Hill Day for the first student. I included Gilroy during the lesson. It was also my first of 4 lessons with that student on 2 consecutive weekends. February 5th, second lesson was my first time with this annoying 31-year-old Muslim woman. She kept asking stupid fucking questions with slow processing and thus crap driving. Early in the lesson, she told me to calm down and that she's not challenging my judgment. My tone was worsening because I was repeating myself. And understanding how her previous instructors gave up on her. February 7th. Third time with the cancel reschedule Indian guy. It went just like his second lesson. I got frustrated that he barely practiced and made no progress. I declined to issue a certificate to him because of the cancel fee still on his account. I told him to go with another instructor too. Gilroy Day for my last student. I took the scenic route through the hills instead of the freeway. because rush hour traffic. That route got me there in 45 minutes rather than 60 minutes. Saw another Boost Blue Honda Civic hatchback. February 8th, during my last lesson, I got bamboozled by a traffic signal. It malfunctioned for a few seconds, then operated normally. And then during my last lesson, a minivan driver doing 45 in the middle lane of the freeway didn't like being flashed by our high beams. The driver cut us off multiple times. February 9th, I saw Roberto speaking with our boss, our male boss, when I arrived at the office. I had another lesson with the 32-year-old Asian woman from Hong Kong and Canada. I texted my male boss my March schedule and informed him I'd come in early the next day to discuss a raise. He responded, and I quote, "He took the words right out of my mouth." Second lesson was with a smelly, dot forehead, 38-year-old Indian woman. She told me she only wants to do 1 hour. Because she didn't pay up front, I had her drive us to the school. The office ladies informed her yet again that it's against policy to schedule single-hour lessons, and they collected full payment. When we left, my female boss texted me, "I hope you can drive with the windows down. Good Lord, she stinks." Sorry about the awkwardness. She has been told over and over we have a 2-hour minimum, but is still pushing to go only 1 hour. You are eating your money today, LOL. Good Lord. I responded, "I'll put up with the smell for the $46 with the monkey face emoji, the one covering the mouth." She replied, "You are a good man." February 10th, I had like a 10-second meeting with my male boss. I walked up to him. He immediately asked, "We'll go to 25 so that you're one step ahead of your roommate." I think he said roommate. I think they all think I live with Gilberto. He then raised his fist to bump. I immediately took it. 25 was the lowest number I was going to accept. I had my 6th and final lesson with Maya. After a practice test, I had her drive me home so I could get more snacks and my Invisalign case. I was contacted by someone from high school that wants to learn how to drive. The person has a fear of large crowds and unknown people and wanted to go with me. February 11th. Because Roberto and I wanted to keep up our incomes, we decided to not influence a 16-year-old Indian dude to reschedule his lessons with us. I had him first for his first lesson, crappy driver. And then I did a practice test with Miriam. She had 7 critical errors, 20 regular ones. She would be taking the drive test on Valentine's Day with Gilberto escorting her. She failed. February 12th, the Muslim woman failed my practice test, 5 critical, 20 regular points. She then considered canceling her DMV test the following day. But lo and behold, the next day I ended up taking her to the DMV. She got a younger Asian woman that tends to be lenient. She somehow passed the test. At the start, she avoided mounting and falling off the curb, but she didn't fully stop for the stop sign. She ended up parking on a solid white line, and she showed me her score sheet, just 7 regular errors. Second time with the 16-year-old Indian kid for his third lesson. He was panicking during Main Street maneuvers still because of issues with tunnel visioning and spatial awareness. I did use strong language during the lesson and even asked if he has any learning disabilities. February 15th, my day off, Maya informed me she passed her drive test. February 17th, 37-year-old Indian woman. She failed my practice test, 6 critical, 12 regular. Not the smoothest or safest maneuvers. Pretty sure my last student that day, a student I had in October 22 for a second lesson, was the first student to pass my first practice test for the Santa Teresa DMV. 0 critical, 2 regular points. February 18th, I was left an eighth of a tank of gas. I had a 30-year-old Indian student that heard of us through the Department of Rehab. Seemed normal, so I chalked up her shit driving to being Indian. Spotted another boost blue Honda Civic hatchback. February 21st, very windy day. Spotted another boost blue Honda Civic hatchback. Gilroy Day for last student. Somehow I arrived a few minutes early in spite of rush hour traffic. Shortly after ending that lesson, the entire south side of Gilroy blacked out. I spotted a new Kia Forte at the office. February 22nd, saw an RV painted like a fire truck. February 23rd, informed by an office lady that the 37-year-old Indian lady called the office to tell us she passed her drive test and is thankful to me, Jeff R., and Roberto. February 24th, one of the office ladies scared me when she tapped on the window to give me a certificate for the replacement student she found for me. February 25th. Country club security wouldn't allow me in because my name and the driving school were not on the guest list. I had to contact the parent. My last student that day was the dumb brunette I had on February 16th. March 1st. Second time with this Vietnamese girl. Had to yell at her to go fast because she was turning slowly in front of oncoming traffic. I even yelled, "Holy shit!" March 4th. Had a 51-year-old Iranian Persian woman that spoke limited English, Farsi speaker primarily. No driver's ed. She only read the California Driver's Handbook in Farsi. She had some driving experience with her husband, but I could not help her. She almost hit a PG&E truck and turned into an opposing lane of traffic. She was offended that I said fuck and intervened.
Because I have problem, I say to that office, I need to driving school. Not like this. It's
no,
you
the,
are.
The,
it
the,
is.
The issue is.
No, it is you are. It is when you take the driving school. It is you are listening. It is you are.
Please.
I don't know. It is
No,
your duty.
I have a question for you.
Yes?
I have a question for you.
Okay.
How am I supposed to teach you when you don't understand the content? You even said you have limited English.
You know, if you want to going to driving, you should have no stress and it's very calm and no stress.
So you want me to just accept that you're going to hit a truck and you're going to turn to the other side of traffic?
It's okay.
That's not okay.
I'm not driver. It's my problem.
You're saying you should just suicide us into a car on the other side of traffic.
You say to me. You say to
so
me.
you think it's a problem to say fuck? And for me to grab you with a preventive trip?
Can you say to me? Can you say please? Can you say to me
okay.
It is not okay for you?
Let me just say, okay. Please don't hit the truck and we're going to get hit already.
No,
yes.
Not like this. From far, Can you say?
Lady, don't
you're
bullshit
okay?
me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. If you have my communication problem, it's okay.
You don't
I say
understand what you were
that's-
doing. That's the issue.
Okay.
You're putting us into a dangerous scenario.
Okay.
The examiner's not going to like that either.
Okay.
It's not just me. Go to any driving school. Do what you just did. You will see. They will scream at you.
If I don't have that communication problem, if I don't have that.
If you don't have the communication
okay,
problem,
if you don't,
we
I
could
don't
make the
have the
progress.
practice problem. I don't take the driving school. I don't need. I have problem. I take the driving school because I want to know. Not to square.
I know you want to know. I'm not disputing that. I'm disputing the fact that you're not able to learn the content.
No. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Stupid fucking cunt.
March 5th. First student canceled due to illness. I lounged at home before heading to Morgan Hill for my 12:30 appointment. March 7th. My mail boss asked me to train a new instructor. When I got to the office, he asked me about the Iranian woman situation. He informed me he received a call from Catholic Charities, which was paying for the woman's lessons. Apparently, she's a prominent journalist from her country of origin. He told me he's not going to fire me for cursing, and to call him when I'm on the edge of blowing up. I showed him a little of the video. He asked me to send it to him, jokingly saying that he'll add it to his file on complaints about me. I sent him an edited version of the video. I just took out the last part of me saying stupid fucking cunt. I was shadowed by a young Vietnamese guy handpicked by the instructor he replaced. And then my last lesson was my first of 3 lessons with a decent Indian driver. He failed my practice test in his next 2 lessons. March 8th. Second student took her second lesson 7 months later without practice. Had to do the absolute basics. Morgan Hill and Gilroy Day. I picked up the Morgan Hill student and practice tested her in Gilroy. March 10th, another Indian adult that learned of the driving school from the Department of Rehab. March 14th, my first student, an 18-year-old Indian guy, looks like one of my Mexican coworkers. After my 2-lesson shift, I got back to the office and unexpectedly left a pie in the toilet. I blew chunks out of my O-ring while squatting over the toilet because the seat was filthy. March 15th, traffic lights still out from wind damage the day before. Almost got T-boned from the left in the same Kia I was hit in because a scumbag guy was speeding through the always stop scenario. Going like 40 something to 35. My last student offered me a drink / food as a thank you for 3 great lessons. I respectfully declined. March 21st, Roberto informed me he experienced a racial joke I made in front of him and another Mexican coworker. He told me, or us, he arrived at his second student's house and the dad asked him if he's the window installer. I saw 2 Boost Blue Honda Civic hatchbacks that day. March 22nd. Pretty sure it was the first time a student passed my initial practice test for the Los Gatos DMV. He passed with 0 critical, 15 regular points. March 23rd, Morgan Hill Day for another Department of Rehab Indian woman. Killed a long gap at home by preparing my stream settings. Spotted Roberto and his student and then informed him of my location. We greeted each other with multiple honks. March 24th, I was asked to train a new instructor the following day. March 25th, trained a middle-aged Iranian American guy, apparently a former driving instructor in Iran, and at that time a current security officer with a concealed carry permit. He shadowed me for my first 2 of 3 lessons. He got to witness me getting annoyed by an Indian student. March 26th, I had my boss fix the issue of my lesson with the Indian woman not being credited. March 28th, I had a full day of Indian students, picked up the Iranian guy at the office for another training. I met a new that day I met a new gas station attendant, some white NPC guy. He told me the station is under new ownership and he filled my tank for me. March 29th, a cancellation and a reschedule meant it was a 1-student day. I didn't agree to the student's same-day request to start at 6 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. March 30th, as discussed in our last training, I picked up the Iranian guy at his home before my 5 p.m. student. He invited me into his home for tea, but I respectfully declined so that we wouldn't be late. I still walked into his house because he wanted to show me around a little bit. But I didn't go, too far away from the front door. He told me he was super impressed again with my teaching for being so precise and detailed and helpful, that he told our boss he only wants to shadow me because he learned so much, and that he'll tell our boss to give me a raise. As I drove him home, he spotted used toys left out on the street. We loaded the car with them so that he could give them to his daughter. March 31st, the mother of my second student is a Jesus freak with ENFP stereotype energy. Had another training with the Iranian guy during my last lesson. I picked him up from and dropped him off at his home. Before I commuted home, Jeff informed me we were both in the test area teaching brothers. April 2nd, first of 2 lessons with a kid named Brogan. April 4th, first of 3 consecutive lessons with a quiet Muslim girl. April 5th, second student, an Asian girl in college, started crying out of stress. She forgot what we practiced in park. The Iranian guy gave me orange Gatorade before he shadowed me during my last lesson. He told the anxious Greek student he's doing a good job so that he could relax and breathe. More red flags from this guy. He asked me about anything that has happened with girls. And he wanted to shadow me on a lesson with a female. April 6th, I spotted a 2023 Civic Type R in Boost Blue. The Iranian guy shadowed me during my last lesson. He answered his front door shirtless. He smashed his face into my seat because I had to use the brake on my student to prevent a collision. I started experiencing a runny nose. April 8th, I decided to go down to Gilroy so my second student would be familiar with the test area for her test coming up later in the week. Third student, a 46-year-old African woman, frustrated me so much on her third lesson. She couldn't even get the basics. I told her to go take driver's ed. Training with the Iranian guy was canceled. I think it was his need to cancel. April 9th, I had to go deep into the hills of Los Gatos for my second student. Our usual gas station was closed, so I had to gas up with my own money at another station. I chose Chevron so I could get points. April 10th, second lesson with the anxious Greek guy. Minor progress on turns and lane changes and lane position and scanning. After the lesson, his mother spoke with me privately and informed me he crashed one of their cars into his school's gate and hasn't practiced since. He took a turn too fast and wide, causing $1,500 in damage. Apparently, the school gate was fine. I saw Roberto at the gas station, told him the white NPC guy looks like Iosif from John Wick. April 11th, I informed my bosses about possibly requesting more time off for Lena's funeral. Second time a student passed my mandatory first practice test for the Santa Teresa DMV, and that student did it with a perfect score. Super rare score, better than the first student that passed that route. That student passed one of two additional tests. Later, my male boss asked me if I can do a 1-hour lesson at 10 a.m. on April 12th or April 13th. I agreed. The Iranian guy shouted me again. By request, we dropped off my last student at a resto bar off Highway 17. April 12th, I received a reimbursement check of $60, even though I paid $46.53 for gas. Last student was a 27-year-old Qatari dude that learned of us from the Department of Rehab. April 13th, started my first lesson, a 1-hour lesson at 10 a.m. with a 20-year-old Indian guy. Horrible driver. April 14th, I was happy to convince the Iranian guy to not shadow me. I was also happy he had to cancel training the previous 2 days due to a schedule conflict. Unexpected Gilroy Day. The office never updated meeting address and app, so I had to rush down to Gilroy after checking in with the family by text. They couldn't, or we couldn't communicate through their doorbell. They were having connection problems. April 15th, I saw new uniforms at the office. After my shift, I took a blue polo and a white crew neck. I haven't worn any of them. Any uniforms on offer. 30-year-old Indian woman, first time driving on US roads. She was decent. Saw another boost blue Honda Civic hatchback. I had actually seen a few in the last few days of April 15th. I achieved my biggest paycheck yet, 36.5 appointments, lots of travel time, possible cancellation fee credited. April 19th, the mother of the girl I helped in Gilroy texted me that her daughter passed. April 24th, the office workers were surprised by my hair. My female boss waved at me in the parking lot after taking a moment to identify me. One of the 2 office ladies in office, her mouth dropped when she turned around and looked at me. I was like, "Do you like my hair?" And then my male boss reacted with a loud, "Whoa." And then the 18-year-old sister of a student I had before gave up 1 hour and 10 minutes into the lesson. She was frustrated that she couldn't understand the right turn techniques I was teaching. As she re-entered her home, She responded to me, "I'm an adult. You don't need to speak with my mother." I spoke with the mother again after the lesson. I agreed with her characterization of her daughter being chickeny. It's her direct quote. Yeah. And yeah, I explained what happened. I called my boss to share my input after their call to complain. For his records, I shared with him the video I took of my conversation with the mother. Secret recording. Third student was a nervous 17-year-old Indian girl that we had a great lesson because she wanted to learn technical driving skills. April 25th, first student was a very nice 24-year-old Filipina. We laughed at her moments of intense focus. She made lots of progress and became a decent driver, despite no opportunity to practice outside of the lessons. Second consecutive day of becoming teary-eyed during the third lesson. The pepita skins in my newest batch of trail mix were getting stuck in my throat. The parents of my third student gave me 2 bottles of water after noticing my struggle trying to clear my throat. Jeff told me he likes my look and called me Billy Idol. April 26th, spotted another new Kia Forte outside the office. First student was a 20-year-old white girl born on April 1st, 2003. Her driving skills were a joke, and probably still are. She took that single lesson after failing the test twice. April 27th, Mel boss called me to train another new instructor. I trained the new guy. Just a white, bald guy, older gentleman. April kind of looks like Andrew Zimmerman, that foodie guy. April 28th, I took the quiet Muslim girl to her test. The father met us at the DMV. She passed. He took her home. I went home to kill time before my 5 p.m. appointment. April 29th, my second student, a 17-year-old white kid, frustrated me because of his lack of common sense and him driving faster than his ability to process information. The older Mexican gas station attendant told me I look more like a white person. Beth and another instructor were surprised by my blonde hair. Beth told me she likes my new look. She used to dye her son's hair, multiple sons, hair, when they were growing up, and that I should go blue next. April 30th. My first student started crying after difficulty with the center left turn lane. I was gentle and helped her calm down with a breathing technique. I was confident of no complaint. She's the student I had to cancel in the double booking conflict. I made a great impression on her first lesson. I informed her we'll fix her issues instead of practice testing on the third lesson, as well as to consider a fourth lesson to practice test. May 2nd, good lesson with a 32-year-old Indian woman that immigrated here in 2022. After some light rain, saw a full arching rainbow. May 3rd, one student workday. My 11:30 a.m. was never filled. My 2 p.m. student canceled. Had a deer encounter as I pulled into the student's driveway. Started the lesson with the 16-year-old white girl at 3:30 p.m. She didn't seem too anxious. I thought she did great. May 4th, I asked my boss to open 11:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. on May 8th. During my second lesson, he informed me that he received another complaint about me from the student I had the day before. We ended up texting back and forth with me reiterating stuff. for my last memo to him. He just wanted us to move on, telling me to have a thick skin. I suggested a disclaimer be put by my name on the website for students to make an informed choice. He replied with, direct quote, maybe, and a period. May 5th. Waited in office for my first of 2 students. Overheard conversation with my bosses and one of the newer instructors I trained. He told them he talked with their son and learned that their son wants to crack down on instructors not teaching. He also mentioned he gets students that tell him the previous instructor barely spoke or taught, or spoke and or taught. Female boss said something along the lines of, he needs to meet Noel. First instructor to drive, I was the first instructor to drive the newest Kia Forte, 2023 Kia Forte LXS Auto. May 6th, boss requested last minute for me to train a new hire. The school bus lady shadowed me for 4 hours. I asked my boss if I'm being paid a special rate for training, and he gave me advance notice for my sanity. He agreed and told me he'll add a special something for me next pay period. Because I did 17 hours with that Iranian guy. That was exhausting. I told him that. And yeah, my boss did pay up. May 9th, 64-year-old Indian man that was licensed in India and is hard of hearing. Yeah. Constant mistakes with the rules of the road. Frustrating, but the lesson ended well. May 11th. Lesson with the youngest son of the kind Vietnamese lady that tipped me very well. And likes me a lot. He started out better than his brother, because he got to do the freeway on his first lesson. At the end of the lesson, I had a chat with the mother. I was tipped with a can of Coke, tissues, and $20 cash. May 12th, lesson with a Vietnamese white student I taught back in 2021, his 10th lesson with our school. He was already licensed. His mom just wanted him to prepare for driving in LA, so I challenged him with lane changes, freeway, parallel parking, and dense urban settings. May 13th, I mistook the Emma I had that day for another one. I accidentally waited near the wrong address. I was 17 minutes late to get to the correct Emma, but I still did the full 2 hours. That day, I started practice testing weekend students in the actual test areas, instead of just showing them around and testing outside of the area, the official area. May 14th, second student passed the first of my 2 new practice tests in the Santa Teresa test zone. Last student, 19-year-old girl, told me she was surprised our school came out. She had a horrible experience with her last instructor. I wasn't surprised to learn who it was. May 13th, I mistook the Emma I had that day for another one. I accidentally waited near the wrong address. I was 17 minutes late, but still did the full 2 hours. On that day, I also decided to start practice testing weekend students and, after DMV hour weekday students in the actual test areas. May 14th, my second student passed the first of my 2 new practice tests in the Santa Teresa test zone. My last student, a 19-year-old girl, told me she was surprised our school came out. She had a horrible experience with her last instructor. I wasn't surprised when I learned the name. She didn't even want to go into detail. Apparently, 3 days prior, her boyfriend left the office a voicemail to inform them of wanting to go to another school. I had a good lesson with her and hopefully saved our reputation. May 16th, my second student, a student that did very well in her first lesson with me, was mentally checked out because her friend died of fentanyl. I decided to not finish the lesson plan, just taking it easy that lesson. May 22nd, courtesy renewal notice letter from the DMV. May 23rd, I had a 40-year-old European woman, 6 months into her immigration here. It was her second lesson and first of 3 times with me. She told me her husband is still, direct quote, scared shitless when she drives their family. I helped her get used to the U.S. traffic laws and driving her, you know. Yeah, I helped her get used to driving after 6 years of not driving. Second student shit his, oh my gosh, this story. Yeah, so my second student shit his sweats. I recall him making uncomfortable noises during my practice test. I chalked it up to performance anxiety. He never told me about his emergency. So we got back to his house at the end of the lesson. He gets up out of the seat and I look at him getting out and I just see his crack, just brown. And I look at the seat, it was wet. Like there were the cheek implants and on the crack. It was wet. Adult daycare, man. Young adult daycare. Post-child daycare. Yeah. I informed my bosses and cleaned the stain from the driver's seat because I was like squirting hand sanitizer on it using my disinfectant wipes to just, you know, get it out. I sat on booklets so I wouldn't be in contact with the shit. I got to cancel on my Gilroy student. When I got back to the office, I spoke with my female boss. She laughed when I replied, "He took a number 2 and number 2." May 24th, first of multiple lessons with the 40-year-old Irish woman. She turned 40 on that day. May 25th, $40 cash tip from the very kind Vietnamese lady. She and her son intend to see me again in October for me to take her son to the Gilbert DMV. May 26th, last student, 20-year-old Indian girl, cried out of anxiety. We pulled over once for her to step out and take a breather. We pulled over again for her to 1. Confront me about my constant tip giving not helping her anxiety, and 2. Recover from her panic attack. She was like, when fucking tears falling. She agreed that it's not my fault for her anxiety. I decided to shut up and not intervene much for the next hour. She ended up crashing us into a curb during a right turn and even shifted to park while still in motion. But I didn't react like I would have, just softly informed her of what to do next time. At lesson end, I updated the mother as kindly as I could. I wrote a synopsis of the lesson on my time card and a longer aggravated note that I withheld from submission into the time card envelope. I noted on the time card I'd be willing to share it. May 28th, my female boss asked me about the Iranian guy making me uncomfortable because the day prior, he did his usual friendly greeting, mentioning again he wants to touch my hair, and he even went in for a one-arm hug. She told me she finds him weird and to let her know if things get too personal. I haven't seen him since. First student was a 16-year-old Indian guy that drove well. Roberto shared video of the panic attack Indian girl talking stupid shit about me. May 30th, another lesson with the Irish lady. Second student was the nastiest sweater yet. She was dripping all over the steering wheel for the whole 2 hours. Some of the sweat was white in color, had a sour metallic odor. June 1st, another lesson with an Irish lady. Had my 2 p.m. rescheduled so I could make it to Gilroy outside of rush hour traffic. Informed the student that I couldn't come the week prior because of the poop incident. Killed 2.5 hours in Gilroy by relaxing in the car, taking a walk, stretching. Enjoyed the lesson with a car enthusiast. June 2nd, a big light brown spider freaked me out during my lesson with a 30-year-old Indian woman I had before. It crawled on my window from inside the cabin. I jumped into the back seat. Luckily, we were parked after practicing reversing by a curb. Spent a few minutes trying to get it out of the car or kill it, but it escaped seemingly into the seatbelt feeder on the B-pillar. So I was fucking paranoid. Last student asked for clarification that I'm not Gilberto. June 3rd, during my commute to the office, I encountered a Honda Civic hatchback Sport Touring in Boost Blue with the OEM spoiler. I don't like the look with the spoiler. Then I encountered 2 other Boost Blue Honda Civic hatchback sport cars. Second student was the younger brother of a student I had before, entitled Douchebag. Last student failed my first practice test, 2 critical, 8 regular, but passed my second one with a perfect score. June 4th, last student, a 16-year-old Chinese girl, cried out of anxiety. She told me it wasn't my fault, that she lost control on a turn by not slowing down enough. I gave her a tissue and did my best to calm her down. After the lesson, I spoke with the mom for 20 minutes to diffuse any complaint. She likes me a lot, especially after seeing reviews about me. June 6th, last student, a French girl, left me with mental exhaustion / headache because of endless talking. June 7th, I requested on my time card to add the option to grade students on speed because my last student was going too fast for her own good and I had to take a lot of time to discipline her. June 8th, Morgan Hill Day. Yeah. To pick up a good student I've had before, practiced in Gilroy for the test. Last student passed my intro non-test zone practice test. 0 critical, 5 regular points. June 13th, my boss asked me to train a new hire on June 14th and 15th. Offered extra $7 per hour for training time. June 14th. New instructor Ashley shadowed me for my last lesson. During the lesson, we were near a 3-alarm fire. I thought someone farted in the car until we saw the smoke plume. June 15th. Ashley shadowed me during my 2 p.m. lesson. We were in a Ford Fiesta with a big boy. I had to deal with his BO and sitting in the warm, sweat-drenched driver's seat. He became a good driver, though. Last lesson was with the same Indian girl I had 2 days prior. More dog shit driving. There was no other way for me to help her. I was fighting back laughter at her. Some of my laughter slipped out when speaking with her dad. On the way back to the office, I had another fit of uncontrollable tears. Yeah. I don't know if I'm developing a dry eye symptom. June 17th. Day full of anxious adults. 23-year-old Mexican guy, 22-year-old Asian guy, 29-year-old Mexican girl. The 22-year-old Asian guy pissed me off so much that I told him I'm laughing out loud to calm myself. June 24th, I enjoyed my lesson with an 18-year-old, first-gen, Dutch-American guy. He appreciated my help and informed me he intends to leave me a great review. June 25th, I informed my boss I can't finish my shift because of my sore throat. I decided to go ahead with my second student since he needed a certificate from me. June 27th, informed my bosses that one of the office ladies is out for the week due to COVID. I took the day off because I still didn't feel well. I didn't test positive for COVID. I did 2 tests, 24 hours apart. June 28th, I pushed myself to work. Female boss gave me lozenges. First student passed the first of 2 practice tests I gave him with a very good score. 0 critical, 1 regular. 1 critical, 1 regular on the next test for forgetting a bike check. During the first test, we almost got T-boned by this dumb brunette that sped out of a driveway on our right. I was bracing for impact even though I shoved the wheel left and braked. We were inches from collision with my door. I stared the woman down. I accidentally gave the certificate for my third student to my second student. Had to go pick it up during my last lesson. Luckily, they live close to each other. July 1st, the Indian woman I had on February 17th took another class with me to learn freeways as an already licensed driver. Really concerning stuff. July 3rd, on the way to my second student, I had another close call with CHP. I passed a blue BMW coupe, merging too fucking slow into the freeway and reached a high speed. As I returned to the right to take a junction to another freeway, the CHP officer sped right next to me, was looking at me for a few seconds, and then decided to zip off to go check the fuckers in the left lanes, speeding faster than I was. July 4th, I began the process for renewing my instructor license. I did the questionnaire in the online portal. July 7th, I had a 21-year-old immigrant from Hong Kong that failed the test twice. She just struggled with remembering rules of the road. After work, I completed my online 18-hour continuous education course, 3 seminars total over 3 days, to avoid retesting at the DMV. I submitted the certificates already online. I gotta scan my physical document and then submit that. July 8th, first lesson with the younger sister of the Vietnamese white student I had multiple lessons with. She did slightly better than her brother on his first lesson, but they both started awfully. July 9th, first student, 18-year-old Indian guy, wasted time. Had to wait 15 minutes for him to come back home as he thought the lesson was at 2 p.m. He had a shouting match with his parents. He failed the drive test once and proceeded to fail my practice test for the same reasons, even though I helped him with his issues prior to the practice test. He wanted to go 15 minutes longer, but I still ended the lesson at 12:15 p.m. July 11th, my Ford Fiesta overheated as I was idling just around the corner from my second student's house. I parked in front of the house and then called my female boss. 12 minutes later, she arrived with another Fiesta and took the broken one back to the mechanic. She told me on the phone that the car was in the shop days ago for the same issue. It happened to Gilberto a few days later. July 12th. On the way to my second student, my female boss told me my student was waiting at the office. I rushed to the office to find a 25-year-old Mexican guy, not some young white girl that I was expecting. I started the lesson and texted my female boss that he's not on my schedule. She apologized again for not checking as he just showed up and said he had a lesson with me. He was originally scheduled for July 17th, 18th, and 21st with other instructors. July 15th, I had the Vietnamese white girl again. She and her mom gifted me a 1.5 liter Essentia water bottle and 3 bags of chips before I left for my third student in Morgan Hill. July 16th, first of 3 lessons with a 26-year-old Indian girl who moved here from Texas. She's already licensed, but she hasn't driven in years. She did amazingly well. What more and or other crazy shit can I and will I experience in this job? I hope I don't die. Anyway, masterminds, I hope you enjoyed this vlog. I'll see you by August 24th. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, be smart for your heart.